What I have for offer is a 1973 Dodge 360 small block. It's a late 72 casting. The block has been bored 20 over. I'm using a stock cast crank. Mains and throws have been turned 10 thou. I'm using KB 107 flat top piston and Eagle SIR rods. On top of the engine are a set of Edelbrock RPM aluminum heads, Edelbrock Torker II intake, and a Holley 650 double pumper list R4777-2. Camshaft is a Mopar Performance hydraulic flat tappet. It's 508 lift, 248 duration, intake and exhaust at 050. Lobe separation angle is 108 degrees, so it's quite choppy, and very low manifold vacuum at idle. I'm also using Mancini aluminum roller rockers, 1.5 ratio, a fully adjustable valve train. Of course, there's all new parts and pieces in this engine assembly. All my engines come with an engine assembly workbook. They list all the parts or specifications, clearances, etc., etc., so you don't have to rely on memory. Bob weights for the balancing, camshaft center line installed, all that, etc., etc. I also list the parts. I also give a parts list with the engine and the receipts for machining and balancing, plus the sheet that came with the Edelbrock heads. I've had numerous inquiries over the years for guys that want 400 horsepower from a stock stroke 360, which is a little difficult to do without getting into radical camshaft profiles and cylinder head porting, etc., etc. But with the Edelbrock RPM aluminums, they flow quite a bit better out of the box than the stock head. So 400 horsepower is much more easily attained with these cylinder heads. When I built this engine not to sell initially. I built this engine as a dyno mule for myself because I wanted to do some cylinder head testing on a dyno. But plans have changed. So when I built this engine, I have a deck height of plus 4 thou. That gives me a compression ratio of about 10.7 to 1, which is fine with the aluminum heads because they dissipate heat so much quicker. So there's no trouble running pump premium gasoline with that compression ratio. With the 360s, they're externally balanced, so I've got a stock torque converter on the back of this engine. And the stator, there's no stator support shaft from the transmission to support the stator and the torque converter, and sometimes it rattles a little bit, but it's got nothing to do with the engine when it's running. Mopar Performance distributor, XL wires. Like I say, because this was a dyno motor, initially just going to be used for a dyno motor, the oil passages have been opened and modified. The number 5 main cap's been opened up and slicked, and the oil pump's been modified, so I had adequate oil. And just going to the SIR rods and the KB pistons, I saved 16% in rotating weight, which is a really good trade-off for the price of the rods and the pistons. 16%, and they're lighter and stronger. No problem with that. Anyways, according to Desktop Dyno, this engine should be making between 415 and 4 1/4 horse. It's a little bit more radical camshaft than the RPM cam that comes in their Edelbrock's package, and the intake's a little bit more aggressive. Anyways, we'll throw a little gasoline at it, and you can hear it rock and roll. Good oil pressure. I'm using 5W30 motor oil. Fuel pressure 5.5 psi. Manifold vacuum is very on the low side because of the how aggressive that flat tappet camshaft is with that 108 low separation angle. She's a really choppy idle. Engine temperature is just about 160 degrees right now, and I'm idling between 850 and 900. Nice clean burning. No leaks. And that stator, I say, makes a little bit of a rattling noise, but it has nothing to do with anything inside the engine. There's a lot of hours assembly time on this engine. I don't even want to know how many hours I spent setting up the valve train geometry. So I'm billing less than half of what I got invested in it. Because it's a test stand, final carburetor tuning has to be done under load when it's in a car. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated.